Welcome. This is not a lesson. It is not a list of rules. It is a quiet conversation about problems, the kind that visit every life. Problems do not arrive loudly. Most of the time, they arrive silently, a heavy feeling in the chest, a tight mind that cannot rest. You wake up and something feels wrong. Nothing is broken yet, but peace is gone. You tell yourself it will pass. You keep moving, but the problem stays, waiting for you to notice it. Many people think a problem means failure. They think a problem means weakness. But that is not true. A problem is not here to destroy you. A problem comes to speak to you, to ask for attention. Most people do not listen. They panic. They rush. They complain. They say, "Why is this happening to me?" And the problem grows bigger because fear feeds problems and confusion gives them power. There was a time when he believed that too. He believed problems were enemies. Whenever a problem appeared, his body reacted first. Fast heart, tight shoulders, restless thoughts. His mind jumped into the future, showing worst endings. He imagined losing everything. He imagined embarrassment. He imagined being stuck forever before anything had even happened. That was his habit. React first, think later, or sometimes never think clearly at all. He did not know it then, but his biggest struggle was not the problem itself. It was how his mind reacted, how quickly it became loud. One small issue could steal his whole day. One mistake could follow him for weeks. He would replay conversations, replay decisions, replay what he should have done and what he should never have done. By the time the problem needed action, his energy was already gone. Many people live like this. They are tired before they start. They are defeated before they try. Not because the problem is too big, because their mind is not calm, and a restless mind cannot solve anything. There was a moment when he realized this, not from a book, not from advice, from exhaustion. One night he sat alone and felt overwhelmed. Nothing dramatic happened, but everything felt heavy. His thoughts were tangled. He felt stuck inside his own head, and that scared him more than the problem itself. He asked himself a simple question. Why does every problem feel impossible? The answer was not the problem. It was panic. He noticed how his breathing changed when stress arrived. Short breaths, shallow breaths, like his body was preparing to run. But run where? The problem was inside his mind. That was the first truth he learned. A stressed mind cannot see clearly. When fear takes control, the mind stops searching for solutions. It only searches for safety. And quitting feels like safety. Avoiding feels like safety. Complaining feels like safety. But safety without action creates stagnation. And stagnation turns small problems into big ones. He did not fix anything that night, but he learned something important. Before solving any problem, the mind must become calm, not positive, not excited, calm. Calm is not weakness. Calm is clarity. When the water is still, you can see the bottom. When the mind is still, you can see options. The next day, a problem appeared again. A normal one, a delay, a small conflict. Usually his mind would race, but this time he tried something different. He paused just for a few seconds. He took one slow breath, then another. He did not try to fix the problem yet. He only tried to steady himself. He told himself quietly, "I am safe right now." That sentence did not remove the problem, but it stopped the panic. And without panic, the problem looked smaller, not gone, but manageable. He realized something surprising. Calm does not solve the problem. Calm allows you to solve the problem. That difference matters. Many people want answers immediately. They want solutions before calm. But calm always comes first. Without it, solutions stay hidden. He began practicing this, not perfectly. Sometimes he forgot. Sometimes he reacted. But each time he remembered, the result was the same. The problem lost its power, and he regained his. He started seeing problems differently, not as attacks, as signals. Signals that something needs attention. A financial problem is not punishment, it is information. An emotional problem is not weakness, it is communication. A mistake is not a disaster, it is feedback. When he stopped fighting problems, they stopped controlling him. That was another quiet truth. Fighting consumes energy. Understanding creates direction, and direction leads to solutions. He noticed how often people say, "I don't know what to do." But when they calm down, they usually do know. The answer was always there. Fear was blocking it, so he made a simple promise to himself. Before reacting, calm first. Before deciding, calm first. Before quitting, calm first. He did not say this to others. It was his private rule. Whenever a problem appeared, he would pause. He would breathe slowly. He would relax his shoulders. He would remind himself, this problem is not bigger than my mind. Sometimes the calm came quickly. Sometimes it took longer. But when it came, everything changed. The problem became clearer. The next step became visible. Not the whole solution, just the next step. And that was enough, because problems are not solved all at once. They are solved one step at a time. That is something many people forget. They want the end. They want certainty. They want guarantees. But life does not work that way. Life gives one step, then waits, then gives the next. When he accepted this, he stopped feeling trapped. He stopped asking, how do I fix everything? He started asking, what can I do now? That question is powerful because it moves you forward. Even one small step breaks the feeling of helplessness. And helplessness is what makes problems scary, not the problem itself. By the end of that day, nothing dramatic had changed, but something important had. He felt less afraid. He felt more present, more steady. He understood the first truth clearly. You do not solve problems by force. You solve them by clarity, and clarity begins with calm. This was not the full answer, but it was the beginning. Because before any solution appears, the mind must become a safe place to think. And that is where real problem solving starts, quietly. After calm became familiar, something else appeared. Space, not empty space, thinking space. When panic left, his mind had room to work. And in that room, questions began to change. Before, his questions were heavy. Why me? Why again? Why does nothing work? Those questions felt loud, but they never moved him forward. Now calmer, his mind asked different things. Not dramatic things, practical things, useful things. What is actually happening? What part of this can I touch? What is one thing I can do next? He noticed how powerful that shift was. The problem did not change, but his relationship with it did, and that changed everything. One afternoon, a familiar problem returned, a problem he had avoided for weeks. In the past, he would delay. He would distract himself. He would hope it disappears. But problems grow when ignored. This time, he sat down quietly. He did not rush. He did not judge himself. He only looked at the problem honestly. He realized something important. The problem felt big because it was unclear. Unclear things scare the mind. Clear things invite action. So he did something simple. He wrote it down, not beautifully, not perfectly, just honestly. What is the problem? At first his mind resisted. Writing made it real. But once it was on paper, the problem looked different, smaller, sharper, not a monster, just a situation. Then he asked the next question. What parts does this problem have? He noticed that most problems are not one thing. They are many small things tied together. When the mind sees them as one, it feels crushed. When the mind separates them, it feels capable. He circled one small part, not the hardest part, not the most emotional part, the part he could act on now. This felt strange at first, because his habit was to solve everything. But everything is too heavy. One part is not. He worked on that one part slowly, without pressure. When he finished, nothing dramatic happened, but something shifted inside him. The problem did not disappear, but it loosened its grip. He felt movement, and movement creates hope. He realized a quiet truth. Progress is not solving everything. Progress is reducing confusion, step by step. Most people feel stuck because they stare at the whole mountain. They never see the first step. And without the first step, the mountain looks impossible. He began practicing this approach daily. Whenever a problem appeared, he asked 3 questions. What exactly is the problem? What part is small enough to handle now? What action does not overwhelm me? He did not rush answers. He let them come slowly. Sometimes the action was simple, a message, a note, a short conversation. Sometimes it was just understanding, and that was enough for the day. He noticed something else. When he stopped overwhelming himself, his confidence returned quietly. Not confidence from success, confidence from trust. Trust that he can move, trust that he can respond. The trust was missing before. Fear had replaced it. Now fear still came, but it no longer ruled. One evening he faced a personal problem, an emotional one. In the past, emotional problems confused him the most, because feelings do not follow logic. He used to tell himself, I shouldn't feel this way. That only made things worse, because denying feelings creates tension. This time he tried a new approach. He did not try to solve the emotion. He tried to understand it, gently. He asked himself, what am I actually feeling? The answer surprised him. It was not anger, it was disappointment. And disappointment wants care, not pressure. He realized many problems are misunderstood emotions. When you misread them, you fight the wrong battle. So instead of fixing, he listened. He allowed the feeling to exist, without judgment, and slowly it softened, not gone, but calmer, more manageable. That taught him another lesson. Some problems are solved by action, others are solved by presence. Both require clarity. Clarity does not mean answers, it means honesty. He started noticing how often people rush solutions. They want to escape discomfort, but discomfort is often the message. Ignore it and the problem returns louder. Listen to it and it guides you. Not aggressively, quietly, patiently. He remembered times when he avoided problems. Those problems followed him. They waited. They grew. Problems do not disappear with time. They disappear with attention. This was another truth he accepted. Avoidance is not rest. Avoidance is delay, and delay adds weight. He practiced facing things early, not perfectly. Sometimes he still delayed, but less than before. And each time he faced a problem sooner, it felt lighter. He understood why. Problems grow in the dark. Light makes them shrink, and clarity is light. One night he reflected on his old habits. How often he waited until problems exploded. Then he blamed himself for being overwhelmed, a cruel cycle. Now he interrupted that cycle. with small attention, with early steps, with patience. He learned that solving problems is not about intelligence, it is about approach. Even simple minds solve complex problems when they stay calm and focused, and brilliant minds fail when they panic and rush. That realization humbled him and freed him. He stopped measuring himself by results. He started measuring himself by response. How did I respond to difficulty? That became his new standard. Some days he responded well, some days not so well. But he always returned, and that return mattered. He saw that problem solving is not heroic. It is ordinary. It happens in quiet moments, with small decisions, with honest pauses, with steady attention. By the end of the week, he noticed something subtle. Problems still came. Life did not become smooth, but he no longer felt powerless, and powerlessness was the real enemy. He felt involved, present, able to participate in his own life again. And that made problems feel human, not overwhelming, not personal attacks, just part of living, part of growing. He understood something deeply now. You do not solve problems by escaping them. You solve them by standing still long enough to see clearly. And clarity grows when you slow down, when you break things apart, when you choose one small step, then another. This was not the end of the lesson, it was the foundation. Because once clarity becomes a habit, action becomes natural. And that is where real change begins. Quietly. Clarity gave him another gift, choice. Before, problems felt like traps. Now they felt like crossroads, not big crossroads, small ones. Moments where he could choose how to respond. Moments where his mind did not rush him. He began to notice something important. Most problems do not need fast answers. They need correct direction, and direction comes from asking better questions. In the past, his questions were emotional. Why is this happening? Why am I like this? Those questions only created noise. They did not create movement. Now his questions became quieter, more grounded. What can I control? What cannot be controlled? What deserves my energy? This changed everything. Because control brings power, he realized many problems feel heavy because people fight things they cannot change. Other people's choices, past mistakes, unexpected events. Fighting those drains the mind and leaves nothing for real solutions. So he learned to separate, not emotionally, practically. This part is not in my control. I will stop arguing with it. This part is in my control. I will work here. At first, this felt uncomfortable. Letting go felt like giving up. But it was not giving up. It was choosing wisely. He stopped wasting energy on blame. Blame feels active, but it is not. Blame freezes the future. Responsibility opens it. One day a problem came that tested this deeply. Someone misunderstood him. Words were twisted. Intentions questioned. In the past, he would panic. He would explain too much. He would replay conversations. He would lose sleep. This time he paused. He asked one quiet question. What part of this is mine? The answer was simple, his clarity. So he responded calmly, short, respectful, clear. He did not try to control the reaction. He did not chase approval. And something surprising happened. Peace stayed. Not because the problem vanished, because he stayed aligned with himself. That was a new feeling, and he liked it. He noticed another pattern. Overthinking appeared when he wanted certainty. He wanted guarantees. He wanted perfect outcomes. But life does not offer guarantees. It offers movement. Waiting for certainty had kept him stuck. So he learned a new rule. Clarity first, action next, certainty later. This rule freed him. He did not need to see the whole road. He only needed to see the next step, one small step, taken calmly. He practiced this with simple things: sending a message he had avoided, starting a task without planning everything, making a decision without over-explaining it. Each time, fear appeared, but it faded faster, because action dissolves fear, and overthinking feeds it. He realized something powerful. Action does not remove all doubt, but it removes paralysis, and paralysis is what keeps problems alive. Another truth became clear. Most people do not fail because they act. They fail because they wait. They wait for confidence. But confidence is not a starting point. It is a result. He stopped waiting to feel ready. He started moving while unsure. Slowly, carefully. That alone solved many problems. Because many problems are simply stuck energy. Movement releases that energy. He also learned to ask one question whenever he felt overwhelmed. What is the smallest useful action right now? Not the perfect action, not the impressive action, the smallest useful one. Sometimes it was writing one sentence, sometimes it was making one call, sometimes it was resting. Rest can also be an action. This changed his relationship with pressure. Pressure no longer pushed him, it guided him, like a signal, not a threat. He also noticed how complaining disappeared, not because he forced it away, because it lost purpose. Complaining had been his way to release frustration. Now action replaced that release. He felt lighter, more responsible, not in a heavy way, in a grounded way. Problems still existed, but they no longer defined him. They became tasks, situations, things to work with, not enemies to fight. He understood something that many miss. Strong people are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they know where to place attention and where not to. Attention is energy. Where you place it matters. When he stopped feeding fear, fear weakened. When he fed clarity, clarity grew. This was not magic, it was practice. Daily, ordinary. He still made mistakes. He still chose wrong sometimes. But he recovered faster, because he did not attack himself. He adjusted, then continued. He stopped turning mistakes into identity. Mistakes became information, and information is useful. Shame is not. This shift changed his inner world, and when the inner world changes, the outer world responds differently, not immediately, but steadily. He felt more capable, not because he solved everything, because he trusted his process, and trust creates strength. He understood now. Problems are not tests of intelligence. They are tests of mindset, of patience, of how calmly you can stay present when things are unclear. And clarity does not arrive with noise. It arrives with stillness. He did not need to be fearless. He needed to be steady. That steadiness was becoming part of him, quietly, and with it, the path forward felt less threatening. Not because problems stopped coming, but because he knew how to meet them, one calm step at a time. With steadiness came another realization. Problems often feel heavy because people face them alone. Not physically alone, mentally alone. They keep everything inside. They try to be strong in silence. He had done that for years. He believed handling problems alone was maturity. But it slowly became isolation, and isolation makes problems louder. One evening, a difficult situation returned, not new. Something he had struggled with before. Something that carried emotion. His first instinct was familiar. Keep quiet. Handle it alone. Don't bother anyone. But then he paused and asked a different question. Who could help me see this clearly? Not who could fix it, just who could listen. That felt uncomfortable. Asking for help always did, because he confused help with weakness and independence with strength. But independence without connection turns into pressure. So he reached out, not dramatically, just honestly. "I'm struggling with this." The response was simple, but it mattered. Someone listened. Someone understood. And suddenly the problem felt lighter, not solved, but shared. And sharing reduces weight. He learned a quiet truth. Asking for help does not remove strength. It protects it. It keeps strength from breaking. He began using this wisely, not with everyone, with safe people, with calm people, people who listen more than they speak, people who don't rush solutions. He noticed something interesting. Often clarity arrived while speaking, not because the other person gave advice, but because saying things out loud organizes the mind. Problems feel confusing inside. Outside, they become clearer. This changed how he approached challenges. He no longer carried everything alone. He also learned when not to ask. Some people bring noise. They bring fear. They bring opinions without understanding. He learned to protect his clarity. Help should support calm, not increase chaos. Another shift happened quietly. He stopped comparing his problems to other people's lives. Comparison had been poison. It made his struggles feel small or shameful. It made him say, "Others have it worse, so I shouldn't feel this." That only buried problems deeper. Buried problems do not disappear. They wait. He accepted a new idea. Pain does not need permission. A problem is valid because it is real to you, not because it is dramatic, not because others agree. That acceptance removes shame. And without shame, problems are easier to face. He also noticed how hope worked. Hope was not excitement. Hope was direction. When he knew what mattered, even slightly, he felt stronger. So he began asking one gentle question when things felt heavy. What am I moving toward? Not what am I running from. Toward feels calmer, toward meaning, toward peace, toward learning, toward repair. This question changed his energy. Instead of fear pushing him, purpose pulled him. He saw how many problems come when people only run from discomfort. Running creates chaos. Moving toward creates structure. He practiced this with small decisions, not dramatic ones. Choosing rest instead of scrolling. Choosing honesty instead of pretending. Choosing effort without cruelty. Choosing progress without pressure. Each choice built trust. Trust with himself. That trust mattered more than success, because trust is what keeps you going. He stopped demanding answers from life. He stopped asking for guarantees. He accepted uncertainty, not happily, but calmly. Uncertainty is not danger. It is reality. Fighting reality creates suffering. Working with it creates solutions. He remembered how often he delayed action, waiting to feel confident. Now he saw confidence differently. Confidence followed movement. It arrived after trying, after adjusting, after surviving mistakes. He stopped calling mistakes failures. They became teachers, not kind teachers, but honest ones. He listened to them, then moved on. He also learned to forgive himself faster, not because he lowered standards, because he wanted to keep going. Holding guilt felt responsible, but it slowed him down. Responsibility is not guilt. Responsibility is action. That difference changed everything. He began seeing problems as moments of training, training patience, training clarity, training courage in small doses, not hero courage, everyday courage, the kind that shows up quietly. He noticed how life responded, not magically, but practically. When he stayed calm, others stayed calmer. When he was clear, Misunderstandings reduced. When he acted early, problems stayed small. Nothing was perfect, but things improved, and improvement builds momentum. He understood something deeply now. Solving problems is not about controlling life. It is about cooperating with it, listening, responding, adjusting, continuing. That mindset removed fear. Fear comes from resistance. Acceptance opens movement. He did not become fearless, but fear no longer stopped him. It became a signal, a reminder to slow down, to breathe, to choose wisely. And with that, problems lost their power, not because they disappeared, but because he knew how to meet them, with calm, with clarity, with steady action, one problem at a time, one step at a time. With time, he noticed another shift. Problems no longer felt like enemies. They felt like teachers, not kind teachers, but honest ones. They showed him where his thinking was weak, where his habits needed attention. Before he tried to escape problems, now he tried to understand them. This changed how he felt inside. Less panic, more curiosity. Curiosity opens doors fear keeps closed. One morning a familiar problem returned, the kind that usually ruined his mood. A delay, a change he did not expect. His first reaction still came. Tension, a fast thought. This will become a mess. But now he recognized the pattern, and recognition slowed everything down. He did not argue with the reaction. He observed it, like watching weather pass, without becoming the storm. He asked himself one steady question. What is this moment asking from me? Not why it happened, not who caused it, what it needs right now. The answer was simple: patience. He realized many problems are not asking for solutions yet. They are asking for time. Time to see clearly, time to collect facts, time to avoid making mistakes driven by emotion. Patience was not passive, it was preparation, quiet preparation. He waited before responding, not too long, just long enough to regain balance. And when he responded, it was cleaner, shorter, clearer. He noticed something important. Waiting calmly often reduced the problem by itself. People explained, situations adjusted. Many conflicts exist only because people rush, because they speak before understanding. This lesson changed his communication. He spoke less, but when he spoke, it mattered more, and problems softened. He also learned to accept limits. Not everything could be solved immediately. Not everything could be solved by him alone. That acceptance felt heavy at first, because he liked control. Control felt safe. But control is an illusion. Responsibility is real. He learned to do his part, then release the rest. This freed a lot of mental space, space that used to be filled with worry. He noticed how worry works. Worry pretends to prepare you, but it only repeats the problem without action. Preparation moves you forward. Worry keeps you stuck. That difference became clear. So whenever worry appeared, he gently redirected his mind. Is this helping? If not, what action can replace it? Sometimes the action was small: drinking water, writing one note, taking a short walk. Small actions interrupted worry. An interruption creates relief. He also noticed how problems feel bigger at night, when the body is tired, when the mind is quiet but restless. Night exaggerates fear, so he created a new habit. No problem solving after exhaustion. When his body was tired, he rested. He reminded himself, I will think better tomorrow. And most of the time, he did. Problems that felt impossible at night felt manageable in the morning. This taught him another truth. A tired mind lies. It tells stories, dark stories. So he learned not to trust every thought. especially when tired. This alone prevented many bad decisions, many unnecessary spirals. He began respecting his energy. Energy was not unlimited. Problems need energy to be solved. So protecting energy was not selfish. It was practical. It was wise. He stopped glorifying exhaustion. He stopped calling burnout discipline. He saw burnout for what it was, a warning, a signal to slow down, not to quit. When he listened to that signal early, the problem did not have to scream later. This awareness changed his rhythm. Work, pause, reflect, adjust, continue. Life became less dramatic, more manageable. He also learned to choose his battles. Not every problem deserved full attention. Some things resolved themselves, some were not important. Before he tried to fix everything, that drained him. Now he asked one honest question: will this matter in a week? If not, he let it pass. Not with anger, with perspective. Perspective shrinks problems. Emotion inflates them. He practiced stepping back mentally, looking at his life from a distance. From that distance, many problems look smaller, not meaningless, but not life-ending. This helped him stay grounded. Grounded people solve problems better. He noticed how his confidence changed. It was no longer loud, it was quiet, stable. He trusted himself not because he had answers, but because he trusted his process. Calm, clarity, small steps, patience. That process worked. Again and again. Problems still came. They always will. But now they felt like part of the journey, not signs of failure. He stopped asking, "Why is my life so hard?" He started asking, "What is life teaching me now?" That question softened him, and strength returned in a new form. Not force, understanding. Not pressure, balance. And with balance, problems lost their ability to overwhelm him. They became moments, moments to pause, moments to choose, moments to grow. One calm decision at a time. By now, something important had settled inside him. Problems no longer felt personal, they felt situational. Before, every problem attacked his identity. He thought, "Something is wrong with me." Now the thought changed. Something needs attention. That difference mattered more than he expected, because identity pain is heavy. Situational work is manageable. One day a problem appeared without warning, a sudden change, a plan falling apart, time wasted. In the past, this would have crushed him. He would replay it all day. He would say, "Why does this always happen to me?" And his energy would disappear. This time he felt the reaction rise. Frustration, tight chest, fast thoughts. But he did not panic. He recognized the signal. He told himself quietly, "This is resistance. Resistance to change. Resistance to uncertainty." He breathed slowly, not to remove the feeling, to stay with it. Staying kept him grounded. He asked one honest question: what is still possible? Not what was lost, not what should have happened, what remains. That question opened space. He saw options he usually missed. Smaller paths, different paths, paths that still move forward. He chose one, not perfectly, but intentionally. This taught him another lesson. Problems often close one door, but they open another. You only see it if you stop staring at the closed one. He also noticed how anger works. Anger feels powerful, but it narrows vision. It makes choices smaller. So he learned to delay anger, not suppress it, delay it, until clarity returns. When clarity returned, anger softened into information. Information told him where boundaries were crossed, where expectations were unclear. Anger, when understood, became guidance, not destruction. He learned to respond instead of react. That alone solved many conflicts. People felt heard, He felt respected, not because he controlled them, because he controlled himself. That control was not force, it was awareness. He also learned something uncomfortable. Some problems repeat, not because you fail, because they are lessons not finished. At first, this frustrated him. He thought he had moved on. But repetition does not mean regression. It means refinement. Each time the problem returned, he handled it better. Calmer, clearer, less self-blame, more skill. That showed him growth. Growth is often invisible until you compare reactions. He stopped measuring growth by outcomes. He measured it by response time. How quickly he calmed down. How clearly he thought. How gently he spoke to himself. Those were signs of progress. He noticed how many people stay stuck because they keep solving the same problem the same way. He stopped doing that. He changed the approach. And when the approach changed, the result followed. Not always immediately, but eventually. He also accepted that some problems do not disappear. They become manageable. Health issues, family tension, long-term responsibilities. These do not vanish. They require pacing, not force. He learned to pace himself, to think long-term, short bursts of effort followed by recovery. That rhythm protected him, and protection kept him consistent. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. He saw that clearly now. He began trusting slow progress, trusting steady movement. Before, slow felt like failure. Now, slow felt sustainable. He also learned to speak kindly when things went wrong. Not fake kindness, honest kindness. The kind that says, "This is hard and I'm still here." That sentence stopped many downward spirals, because abandonment hurts more than failure. He stopped abandoning himself. Another shift appeared. He no longer needed others to agree with him to feel secure. Disagreement did not feel like rejection. It felt like difference. This reduced many problems. Because he stopped fighting for validation, he chose clarity over approval, and clarity simplified life. He noticed how often problems grow from miscommunication, from assumptions. Now he asked questions earlier. He clarified sooner. This prevented tension from building. Prevention is quieter than repair. He valued quiet solutions. They saved energy. He also learned to rest without guilt. Guilt used to whisper, "You should be doing more." He answered calmly, "Rest is part of solving this." Rest allowed better thinking. Better thinking created better action. That cycle replaced burnout. By the end of the week, he looked back and saw something clearly. Problems had not disappeared, but fear had. And fear was the real obstacle, not difficulty. Without fear, problems became puzzles. Without fear, mistakes became data. Without fear, life felt workable again. He understood something deeply. You do not need a problem-free life. You need a mind that does not panic when problems appear. That mind is built, slowly, with calm, with practice, with respect for your own limits. He was building that mind now, and with it, a different way of living. Not perfect, but stable. Not loud, but strong. And that strength would carry him through whatever came next. With stability came perspective. He started seeing patterns instead of problems, patterns in his thoughts, patterns in his reactions, patterns in what drained him. Before, every problem felt new. Now, many felt familiar, not in a boring way, in an understandable way. He realized most problems return in similar forms: pressure, uncertainty, expectation, fear of failure. The shape changes. The feeling stays the same. That realization gave him power, because familiarity reduces fear. When you recognize something, you don't panic. You prepare. You respond. One afternoon, he felt overwhelmed again. Not because of one big issue, because of many small ones stacked together. Tiny weights, emails, responsibilities, people needing answers, decisions waiting. His body reacted first. Tight chest, heavy shoulders, a restless urge to escape. In the past, he would push harder. He would ignore the signs. Then he would crash later. Now he paused. He asked himself quietly, what is piling up? He listed the small things, not emotionally, factually, on paper. Seeing them written changed the feeling. The pile became visible, and visibility creates control. He noticed something interesting. Some items did not need action today. Some were habits of urgency, not real urgency. So he postponed them without guilt. That act alone reduced the pressure. Because urgency is exhausting, he also learned to close loops. Small, unfinished things drain energy. So he closed one, just one. The relief surprised him. It was immediate. He understood another truth. Completion brings peace, not perfection. Completion. Many problems exist because too many things are left open. Closing even one loop restores energy. He began using this as a tool. When overwhelmed, finish something small. Reply to one message. Clean one space. Make one decision, then stop. Momentum returned naturally, not forced. He also noticed how his self-talk changed. Before, it was harsh. Now it was firm but fair. This is difficult, but I know how to approach it. That sentence grounded him. He stopped dramatizing his inner language. Drama increases stress. Neutral language reduces it. Words matter. He also accepted that some days are simply heavy. No lesson, no message. Just heavy. Before he fought those days. Now he allowed them. Allowance did not mean surrender. It meant patience. He learned to ride the low days, not sink into them. He reminded himself, this is temporary, not as hope, as experience, because every low day before had passed. This one would too. That belief was built on evidence, not optimism. He also noticed how comparisons still try to return, especially when tired. Seeing others succeed triggered old thoughts. I should be further. He paused those thoughts gently. He asked one grounding question. What am I building? Not what are others building? That question brought him back. He realized his path was quieter, slower, but it was honest. And honesty builds stability. He stopped measuring life by speed. He measured it by alignment. Does this choice align with my values? Does this action respect my limits? Those questions simplified decisions. They reduced conflict. He no longer chased every opportunity. He chose carefully. Choice reduced problems. Because many problems come from saying yes too often, he practiced saying no kindly, without explanation. That felt uncomfortable at first, but relief followed. Boundaries protected his energy, and energy solved problems. He noticed how many problems are created by exhaustion. When tired, everything feels harder. So rest became strategic, not optional. He slept earlier. He ate better. He moved his body gently. These were not lifestyle trends. They were problem-solving tools. A supported body thinks clearly. A supported mind responds wisely. He stopped separating life into important and not important. Health mattered. Relationships mattered. Rest mattered. Without them, problem-solving collapsed. So he respected them. He also learned to accept help without shame. Not often, but when needed. That saved time and reduced stress. He stopped trying to prove strength. He practiced sustainability. That change made life quieter. And in quiet, insight grows. One evening, he sat alone and reflected. He asked himself, what changed? The answer surprised him. He had not learned to eliminate problems. He had learned to stay calm inside them. That was the real skill. Problems had lost their drama. They became tasks, challenges, situations, manageable. He understood now. Life does not reward force. It rewards consistency, presence, clear thinking, gentle persistence. He felt gratitude, not loud gratitude, quiet appreciation for growth, for learning, for not giving up on himself. Even when it was hard, he was not finished. Life would continue testing him, but he trusted himself now. And trust is the strongest foundation. He knew what to do when the next problem arrived. Pause, breathe, clarify, act, repeat. That rhythm was his strength, and it would carry him forward, not without difficulty, but without fear. And that made all the difference. By the time he reached this point, something was clear. Life had not become easier. Problems still appeared, unexpected, uninvited, but they no longer frightened him in the same way, because he had changed how he met them. He no longer asked life to be simple. He asked himself to be steady. That steadiness was not loud. It did not look impressive, but it worked. One day, another problem arrived, a familiar kind, not dramatic, just heavy enough to test him. He felt the first reaction rise, tension in the chest, a thought trying to rush him. Fix this now. He noticed it. He did not obey it. He paused. He breathed slowly. He reminded himself of what he had learned. I do not need to solve everything at once. That sentence grounded him. It created space. In that space, he saw the situation clearly, not emotionally, practically. He separated facts from fear. What is happening? What is imagined? What he could influence? What he could not? Then he chose one small step, only one. He took it calmly, without pressure. That step did not solve everything, but it moved him forward, and forward is enough. He realized something deeply at that moment. Problems lose power when you stop fighting them and start working with them. Fighting drains energy. Working builds strength. He looked back at who he used to be, the version of himself who panicked, who avoided, who overthought. That person was not weak. That person was untrained. Now he was trained, not perfectly, but steadily. He had learned to calm his mind, to slow his reactions, to ask better questions, to take small actions, to rest without guilt, to ask for help without shame, to accept uncertainty, to stay present. These were not tricks. They were skills, and skills grow with practice. He understood that solving problems is not about winning. It is about continuing calmly, continuing wisely. When you continue, solutions appear. When you quit, everything stops. He also understood something gentle. You do not need a life without problems. You need a way to meet them, again and again. And that way is simple, not easy, but simple. Pause, breathe, clarify. Choose one step, then repeat. This rhythm changed his life, not overnight, but permanently. He stopped fearing the next challenge because he trusted his response. Trust is built when you show up for yourself, even on hard days, especially on hard days. He knew there would be moments when the old habit would return, moments of fear, moments of doubt. But now he had a reference. He had proof that he could handle difficulty, proof that calm leads to clarity, proof that small steps lead forward. That proof lived inside him, quietly, and it would stay. If you are listening to this and facing a problem now, remember this. Do not decide your whole future in one difficult moment. Do not rush. Do not panic. Calm your mind first. Clarity will follow. Then take one small step. Not the perfect step, the honest one. the manageable one. Do this again tomorrow and the day after. This is how problems are solved. Not with force, with consistency, with patience, with respect for yourself. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. I hope it helped you feel calmer, clearer, and more capable. If you want more calm, motivational stories that also help you practice English step by step, subscribe and follow the channel. Remember, you do not need to solve everything today. You only need to stay and take the next step, step by step. That is how strong lives are built.